Welcome once again, my fellow manipulators of digital fate. I'm Richie, this is Capricorn, and they just dropped a metric ton of news on us yesterday about Wonders of the First, and it's a lot to process, so we're going to go over all of it. We're going to talk about the World Championships happening in Las Vegas in November at SCGCon. They unveiled a bunch of details for that with an absolutely insane cash prize pool. We're also going to talk about what I think is the very first competitive team for Wonders of the First, which I put together coming out of SCGCon Orlando, and we've been keeping it very hush-hush until now, but with the World Championships on the horizon, it is time to unveil the team. I'm going to let you know who's a part of it, but we're going to start here with the bad news. The bad news is that Set 2 for Wonders of the First, called Call of the Stones, has been pushed back to February. It is no longer coming out this year, it is coming out in February. Now, I kind of see this as a good thing. There's a silver lining because the first World Championships having a focus on the very first set, Existence, instead of having a new set launch right before it happens, I think is a smart move. Being able to completely focus on Existence, the meta that has been built up around the Existence set, and give that its full attention at the World Championships before moving on to a Set 2, I think is going to be incredibly exciting, and it actually makes me more excited for the World Championships than I otherwise would be if I had to scramble and try to make a deck with new cards like a week or two before it happens. So I'm pretty excited about it, even though I'm kind of bummed because I wanted to get my hands on new cards and I want to see what those new cards are ASAP. I really do think it's for the best. And I would like to point out that there is a spoiler season planned for this set. There is a plan for pre-buy for the set. So even though the set launch is pushed back to February, it's not going to take that long before you start hearing about the set, finding out what's in the set, and finding out what you should be excited about with this set, Call of the Stones. So look forward to all of that coming, and that's going to be coming sooner rather than later, I think. I cannot confirm nor deny, but there are plans on the horizon and all of that stuff is on its way. Now, as far as the actual World Championships, they've done something incredibly crazy, and at first it kind of sideswiped me and took me by surprise, and the more I've thought about it, the more I like it. So they're doing two completely separate tournaments. They're doing what they're calling a Stoneseeker Cup, and they're doing what they're calling a Dragon Cup. The Stoneseeker Cup is your normal competitive tournament, World Championship tournament. It has a $25,000 prize pool, which is more than most card games ever have for the first year of their existence. So that's already kind of insane. And anybody can play in that. You can sign up, you can register your deck, you can try and see if you have what it takes to take the crown and become the champion and get your cut of that $25,000 prize pool. But what they've also done is this Dragon Cup tournament, and the Dragon Cup tournament will be taking place simultaneously, and they're doing this so that you can't have one player dominating both tournaments. You're going to have to pick and choose. Both of these tournaments will be happening at the same time, and you have to decide which one you're going to join. That being said, the Dragon Cup is going to make your decision a little bit easier for the average player because what you need in order to qualify for the Dragon Cup is absolutely insane. Before we get to that, first of all, it is a $100,000 cash prize pool. $100,000 for the first ever World Championship tournament. So the entire tournament between the two events is going to be a total of a $125,000 cash prize pool, which is just absolutely insane for a new game. Super crazy. But $100,000 of that is dedicated to the Dragon Cup. And what sets the Dragon Cup apart is the Dragon Cup was created to incentivize collectors and give the ability for collectors to get in on the competitive action. Because in the Dragon Cup, your entire deck needs to be consistent. It needs to consist of pre-release slabs, formless foils, which are the special version of foiling that are much, much rarer than normal foils, OCM cards, which are serialized cards that go to 10, 25, 50, 75, or 99 depending on the rarity, and stone foils. Stone foils are one of ones with only one of that card in existence, and every single card in that first set in existence has one stone foil. Your entire deck needs to be made up of these premium cards, which is just absolutely mind-blowing. And at first, I kind of took a step back and I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. You know, having a tournament that is so segregated from the normal player base. But the more I thought about it, there's already a $25,000 tournament for the players that you can enter with just paper cards that don't cost too much to get your hands on. And then this $100,000 tournament is kind of just going the extra mile and having this really crazy premier event that is made to incentivize the collectors and let the collectors get in on the action. So your entire deck consisting of these premium cards seems absolutely crazy, but it gets even crazier because 50% of your deck at least needs to be OCMs or stone foils. So not only does your entire 50 card deck need to be ridiculously rare premium versions of all of these cards, but half of your deck needs to be the rarest of the rare serialized cards. Either the OCM serialized to 10 through 99 depending on rarity, or the stone foils which are serialized one of ones. And then to top it all off, you also need a stone foil. You need to own a stone foil as sort of like your ticket to the event in order to even get access to the Dragon Cup. That stone foil doesn't necessarily need to be in your deck, but you have to own at least one stone foil in order to get access to the event at all. And then your entire deck needs to be these premium cards, and half your deck, 25 cards, needs to be a serialized card. Really, really crazy. And on first inspection, it seems like it might be a little too crazy, but it's actually very clever because what it's doing is this. There are a ton of collectors out there that have bought into this product, that love the product, love ripping the product, love collecting the product, have a bunch of these premium cards, but don't really know how to play the game. Or maybe they kind of know how to play the game, but they're not super good at it. That's not their focus. So what this event is trying to do is incentivize collectors and players to join forces and to become a team and have the best players and the collectors with the deepest collections join forces to make a team and to try to take the championship in the Dragon Cup together. And I think that's actually really interesting, and the more I think about it, the more I like it, and the more okay I've become with how they've chosen to do this. In fact, the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of in love with the idea. So, if you're a good player out there, get on TTS, play it on Tabletop Simulator, show people what you're worth, find a collector to team up with, and even if you can't build the most optimum deck at all, just scrape together whatever OCMs, formless foils you can, put together a deck. Who knows what's going to happen in the Dragon Cup? I personally think that it's going to be very difficult to put together the most optimum meta decks possible in the Dragon Cup. I think the vast majority of the decks that sign up for the Dragon Cup are going to be, I don't want to say thrown together, but they're going to be less than optimal builds that have to deal with the constraints of how many formless foils you have, how many OCMs you have, and I actually think that's really fun. I think that's going to make the Dragon Cup feel almost halfway in between constructed and sealed, as you have to kind of deal with a very limited card pool to build your deck out of. And I'm just super excited about that the more I think about it, because I love Limited, and even though it doesn't seem like Limited is being represented at the World Championships, the Dragon Cup in this weird, unofficial way sort of seems a little bit like Limited. Like, it's kind of like a in-between point between Constructed and Limited. And I sort of like that. That being said, I am still kind of holding out hope there ends up being an actual Limited tournament. A big, the best, biggest annual event of the year version of a Limited tournament at this event, because I love Limited, and I think this game does Limited really well, and I think it's really special, and I hope that's represented in some way, even though I don't expect it to be represented to the extent of the Stoneseeker Cup and the Dragon Cup, which will both be constructed events, and will both be limited to 1000 DBS in the deck builder. So all of that is incredible. That leads us to the final thing I want to talk about, the formation of my competitive play team, FirstFormed. Now, this is something I was discussing even before going to SCGCon Orlando with one of my playtest partners online. We've been secretly brewing decks behind the scenes and testing with each other, and I went to SCGCon Orlando with the idea of starting a competitive play team in mind at SCGCon. When I was there, I met up with a couple of players where it seemed serendipitous that we all just linked up, we had the same mindset, we had the same excitement and passion for the game, and it all just seemed to come together perfectly. And I left SCGCon already thinking I was going to start this team. We had been talking about it for weeks, and then news of this tournament dropped, where it's more relevant than ever that you have a team so that you can get collectors on your team and have them be a part of everything that you're doing and be able to join up together to try to take the crown. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to announce Team FirstFormed, consisting of 4 players and 1 collector at the moment. We have Bendless, the first place champion from the first Shattering launch event back in March, and he's currently ranked number 3 in the world in Constructed on the Cardio database. We also have Hanging Bananas, who is a top 10 ranked player in the world on Cardio for Constructed, and recently secured a top 4 finish at SCGCon Orlando. We also have Roaming Boss, who is my secret private play partner in my preparation for SCGCon Orlando, and he hasn't played in any official sanctioned events yet, but he did play in the first ever tabletop simulator tournament over on the Wonders of the First Discord channel, and he managed to secure a top 4 finish, beating out the only undefeated player in the top 8. And then last but not least, we have Capricorn, myself. I recently took 2nd place at SCGCon Orlando, secured a 6th place finish at the sealed event at SCGCon Orlando, and I'm currently the 2nd ranked Constructed player in the world on Cardio. The 4 of us together are a team not to judge lightly. We've been practicing, we've been preparing, and we have a plan. I would also like to introduce our 1 collector that is a part of the team right now, and that is Bill Cotgreave, otherwise known as @BillCot over on the Discord channel. He has an insanely deep collection of cards, both formless foils, OCMs, stone foils, and this team is going to go to the moon. I am incredibly excited about this lineup. We are considering possibly bringing a couple other collectors into the mix. I have been talking to a few collectors behind the scenes. Those of you that are watching this, if you know who you are, you know who you are, and we might work out deals to bring a couple more collectors on board. We're also possibly considering bringing in more players to the team, but that's something that we're going to really take our time with and consider very carefully. We're not going to jump on anything right away. It's going to take some time to decide who we should maybe try to get on our team in addition to the 4 players that we already have. But our number 1 goal with this team, we plan on sending 2 players to the Dragon Cup and 2 players to the Stone Seeker Cup, and we are working our butts off on securing top finishes in both tournaments for Team FirstFormed. So if that sounds like something you want to be a part of for the long run, definitely let me know. We are taking submissions. Like I said, we're going to be very, very careful. We might not add any new players prior to the World Championships in Vegas. We might wait until after. We're not sure yet. But when it comes to collectors, we are mulling over our options and considering adding more collectors to the team. I fully believe, I am fully confident that this team has what it takes to take a number of the top spots at the World Championships, and I can't wait to see you there. We have a plan. Things are looking crazy. You'll just have to wait and see. Thanks so much for checking out my channel. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons over at Patreon. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible, so honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your contributions. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe. The more likes we get and the quicker we get them, the bigger this channel will grow and the faster it will grow. I'd love nothing more than this channel to become something very special for you guys, but it's entirely up to you how fast that happens. Also, if you'd like more deck techs, that's somewhere over there. And if you'd like to see what else the channel's been up to lately, that's somewhere up that way. Also, subscribe, circle below, do all the things.